In a college history class in 1968, I learned about an awful lie that the Christian church began spreading over 300 years ago. A lie to dehumanize people of color in order to give a clear conscience to slave owners and everyone else involved in or benefiting from slavery. The crux of this lie was to classify darker-skinned Africans as if they belonged to a separate and lesser race from lighter-skinned Europeans, so that white people, meaning those of European ancestry, could believe that anyone with even one drop of African blood was less intelligent and less responsible, yet much more threatening than white people. I learned that this lie had not only survived the Civil War to justify segregation and discrimination, but that it was still deeply embedded in the minds of all of us whites and in our country's cultural, economic, and political institutions, and that it was insidious and would not go away quietly. But before I could really digest all of this, I found myself in Vietnam, along with the vastly disproportionate number of young black men who were also being drafted into that war. A deep and unconditional bond formed out in that jungle among the black and white soldiers in my little squad. Our leader was a young black sergeant, and we all had each other's backs in a way that I've not experienced before or since. But somehow in the back of my mind, I was aware that this unjust lie was waiting for my black fellow soldiers who made it home, even after all they had done and all they had risked for their country and for their white fellow soldiers. The injustice that still haunts me the most when I think about those young black men with whom I had bonded during that war is that the lie would cause whites to fear them when they got home instead of welcoming them home, and probably even to further insult their dignity by crossing the street just to avoid them. Plymouth Church gave me my next experience with young black men when I volunteered for the Plymouth Family Partners program in the mid-1990s. There were 6 of us from Plymouth, each of us as a sort of big buddy to one of the 6 children of a young African-American single mom. My child was a bright, curious boy of 14 who was eager to learn new things and even seemed to have fun hanging out with an old white guy. We did crafts, I watched him play basketball, I helped him with homework, and I joined his mother at parent-teacher conferences. But he began drifting away from me in high school, missing our scheduled meetings, skipping class, and ultimately dropping out. I can see now with hindsight that the lie I had learned about snuffed out in his mind any hope he might have had that our white-dominated economy and culture would ever allow him to lead a safe and prosperous life just by studying hard in school, and instead turned him to life on the street because he can find dignity and respect in that community. He ended up in jail, even though he never committed a theft or a threatening crime, let alone a violent crime. He's been out for several years now. He's a good family man with a good job, but this remarkable young man was unjustly derailed for too many years by that lie, which leads our white community to trap and punish instead of nourish and support our black fellow citizens, especially young black men. The murder of George Floyd makes me think about that lie all the time now. I believe it's critical for us to condemn it and try to drive it out of our community and out of our own consciousness, including especially driving out that unjust and destructive knee-jerk suspicion that every young black man we see is irresponsible and threatening. That aspect of the lie is particularly outrageous because it insults the dignity, honor, and courage of the young black men who throughout history have fought and died for our country, and of the tens of millions of young black men like my young buddy from the Plymouth Family Partners program who are still battling that lie today as they build their lives. we must also do the work demanded of us in our community to deconstruct the barriers to racial equity that have been fostered by the perpetuation of this destructive and heinous lie. This I believe.